All right, here we go. What is up? We are live streaming, but guess what? It's just me. I'm by myself here at the Furnace, and I'm just kind of burning, which is typical with me, but burning with the message. And what I really want to do for just a few minutes, this isn't going to take a long time, I want to cast a little vision about the school of fire. You know, God, man, I met with somebody today for dinner, and a pastor from another state, and it just caused me to reminisce a little bit about my journey, the things that the Lord has called me to do, the different places that He sent me. I mean, it's been an amazing journey. If you want to go on the adventure of a lifetime, fall in love with Jesus, dive deeply into what He's called you to do, man, I'm telling you what, it's going to be absolutely hardcore. And, we've been in, Colorado, planted a church there. We were at the International House of Prayer in Kansas City, directed an internship there. Here we are in Detroit, been to Haiti, been to Thailand, ministering in Ohio, ministering in San Diego, ministering in Texas, in Tennessee, just different assignments the Lord has had us on. And, and now especially since I'm traveling so much, I love meeting new people and seeing what God's doing in different places. But what I'm thinking about right now is, man, we have got to just, let me say it like this. I'm thinking about where I've been, and I'm more excited about where I'm going. I'm more excited about what's coming. I'm more excited about, the fire of God that's about to land on planet Earth. But we've got to see a people that will step into position and will refuse to take a casual approach, that will refuse just to be timid, will refuse to be slow, but will absolutely grab hold of what God's calling them to do. And, there's a remnant that is rising up. The question is are you going to choose to be a part of the remnant? Because every one of us has that choice. We can do it if we want to. I can choose to lay down and on the couch and relax my life away. I can choose to try to just get more money and a better job, or I can involve myself radically with a mission, an end-time mission of raging, burning revival. And I choose that. And so the question is for you, where are you at? And I'll tell you straight up front, it is not easy. I was actually online today, and somebody made the point that when we follow Jesus, that we can expect for there to be no trouble or turmoil. And I'm thinking, this person must be like, a brand new Christian. They might not understand reality. The Bible says that there are many trials, that we can expect persecution. We can expect, but for some reason in the American church culture, and especially with this unbiblical grace movement that's on the rise, there's this idea that if we get it right, if we just understand God the right way, that now we step out of trouble, we step out of trial, now we step into a life of just peace and safety, honestly, is what the message is. And that's just not true. If you want to lock in here at the Furnace, I dare you to lock in here, and I'll be very straight up with you. This is, well, first of all, it's the happiest place on earth as far as I'm concerned. But beyond that, it's a very intense atmosphere. We don't want to see you come into this place and just kind of hang out. Now, you can come and hang out, but the atmosphere is such, or our culture is such, to where we're calling people not one level higher, but not 5, 10 levels higher, to grow into the person that God's called them to be. And so we're unapologetically intense. And by the way, I'll just say this, I say we're intense. Other people say we're intense. People say that the message here is just unbelievably challenging. And it's honestly embarrassing for that to be the case. Because what we do here, it's not challenging much at all in comparison with what's going on in other nations. I mean, really, I'm not just trying to make a point or trying to be dramatic. Honestly, we are nowhere near the level of intensity that you're going to find in other regions, not anywhere close. And I've shared stories about the church in China where, someone was interviewed and said every morning, 7 days a week, the entire church wakes up at 4:30 in the morning before work and goes to the church together to pray for 2 hours. That's normal church. But for whatever reason, that stresses people out. The cares of life have dominated us. We're trying to do everything we can to, we're selling our soul out to entertainment, selling our soul out to materialism, and now the prayer rooms are often empty. So often, usually empty, right? And so we're not intense, but I guess in comparison to a lot of what's going on out there, we're intense, and we want to be a people of fervent prayer. If you come in to the furnace and you're resistant to the call to pray, you won't survive even a week. Because we pray. The church is to be a house of prayer for all nations. A lot of people say, well, the prayer room isn't for the new believer. And, well, a couple points on that. First of all, the church is a believer's ministry where we're not mostly focused on, at least we're not mostly focused on the unsaved, trying to gather them into a meeting. Now, certainly the new believer, yes. The old believer, yes. But the unsaved, it's not an evangelistic system. The church isn't. For some reason, we've tried to turn it into that. It's resulted in, in the seeker-sensitive movement that's out there. It's resulted in, a tepid environment. It's resulted in more of a social environment because we've taken the house of prayer and we've tried to turn it into an evangelism system, and it's really just not that. That's the first point. Second point is the best place for an unsaved person or a new believer is the prayer room. The prayer room. Because the prayer room, when you do it right, the Spirit of God is raging and burning in that room. And so what better place for someone to be? So we've fallen for this idea that the new believer or the unbeliever, that we need to relate to them on a social, logical level. And we've eliminated the Spirit almost entirely. And so now we need to invite them to socials and potlucks, and hopefully they get the courage up to stay for a service. That's insanity, and I'll have nothing to do with it, right? There was a time when I was in California, a youth pastor in a church in San Diego, and we had a wild, fiery youth ministry. People were coming, just plastered all over the floor. It was intense every week. And one of the guys, an amazing guy, he came up to me, one of the youth, and he said, John, I've got these friends of mine they're on the football team in high school, and they will absolutely freak out if I were to invite them to this type of a service where people are jumping and dancing and praying in tongues and and crying before the Lord and on their face and all of that stuff. He said they'll freak out. He said, do you think maybe we could have maybe a visitor week where we don't do this stuff and we just have more of a lower key event? And this guy is so amazing. So I wasn't grieved at him at all. I was so excited about him, but I was grieved about that predominant strategy that so many buy into. It's like, let's tone it down for the sake of those that don't know God so they can come in and meet us, meet the pastor, make friends. But what about God? They don't need me. They don't need friends. They need God. And so I looked at him, I smiled, I challenged him. I said, I'm not changing anything, but I dare you to invite them to come this Friday, which is what our youth service was. Next Friday, come, bring them, and see what God does. And I was so proud of this young man. He did it. He invited them. Here come these high school football players. There were several of them. They came to the service. We lit it up probably even more intense than usual. Fire of God was falling, and every single one of them gave their heart to Jesus. And I bet you that wouldn't have happened if we would have thrown a pizza party. It was the fire of God that resulted in them getting saved. Now, I know there's some movements out there that they're like, duh, John, this is absolutely the case. And there's some catalytic youth ministries and there's catalytic churches out there where they're saying, yeah, we're not toning anything down. We're going after this, but predominantly that's not the case. And we need to ramp things up. It's absolutely mandatory. And so we're equipping people here at the Furnace. We're just starting video. We had our first video this past Monday, 2 days ago, and we're going to be bringing our school of prayer every Friday night, our regular service every Saturday night, and our school of revival every Monday night. So 3 times a week, via video or audio, you'll have your choice, you can participate with us. And so Friday night, I'm going to be teaching on prayer. And we're going to be going after it. What is it to pray? What is it to hear God's voice? What is it to pray in the Spirit? What is it to groan in the Spirit? What is it to be undone? What is it to declare the word of the Lord? What is it? What is it to come into agreement with what He's doing? And then after the teaching, we're going after it. And we're going to pray. We're going to burn. And you can join us. If you're here in the Detroit area, come here. But if you're not anywhere in the world, of course, you can connect with us via video. Then Saturday nights, we're going to let it rip. It's going to burn white hot. We'll be worshiping and praying, and I'll be bringing a message. And then Monday nights, we're going to have the School of Revival. Now, the School of Prayer and the School of Revival are brand new focuses starting this week. The School of Revival on Monday nights, it's going to actually start in about a month, because we're finishing up a 12-week video series with John Bevere, and so we're going to continue with that. But we're going to have the video going, so you can join with us the next 3 weeks. We have 3 more weeks to go, and then after that, I'm going to be teaching on revival, and I'm going to start by teaching one of my most important books that I've written. Really, it's a commentary on the book of Acts, 20 Elements of Revival, and I'm going to go through the entire book. I'm going to go through every element. We're going to discuss what it takes to see revival on a city level, why we're not seeing revival, why is there delay. For example, here in Detroit, I believe that we should have seen revival. Ha-ha! Lost my battery, but I got it back up. So I'm going to be talking about why are we not seeing revival hit? For example, here in Detroit, I believe that we should have seen revival land here in this region, in this city, at least a few years ago. And I believe there were failures of unity. There was a lack of response, and there are times, certainly, that God will move with very little human agreement. That has happened. But we cannot rely on that. We need to see the entire city of Detroit drop agendas, come together, cancel their services if necessary, gather together, pray, and go hard after revival. And so we're going to talk about that. Why did revival not land in Detroit? Or why is it not hitting in other regions? It's not only Detroit. Believe me, there's over 19,000 cities in the nation, and there are 0 cities experiencing revival. And what revival is, it's biblically normal living. And so the idea here is that revival is a biblically normal life. So we have 0 biblically normal cities, and so 0 out of 19,000 doesn't mean there aren't pockets of activity where God's moving. I'm not saying that there aren't churches and ministries where there's no outbreak, there's no fire. There is. Oh my. I mean, there are things going on out there that just humble me, and I'm like, oh Jesus, what an honor it is to just even watch from a distance. But city level, we're in trouble, and so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that on Monday nights. And this will translate to any city. And so starting in about a month, I'm going to kick into that 20 elements of revival, and it's a study in Acts chapter 2. And what did they need to do to see revival break out there in Acts chapter 2? And we're going to go through that. There's 20 specific steps that we'll look at. So are you one that you're ready? You're done with church as usual. You're done with playing games. You're done with being timid. You're done with using the church for personal gain. You're done with all of your demands. I was talking to this friend today. And so often today when people come into the church, they end up leaving if their demands aren't met. If there isn't a great children's ministry or a great youth ministry or a great counseling, or if they don't make friends, or on and on and on, it's all about self. And what if we just gathered? I've shared this so many times. What if we gathered just all of us together and like 2 Chronicles 7 style, where the presence of God was so intense that people couldn't even enter the building, and they just hit the pavement outside and declared the goodness of God? What if we did that? We didn't care if kids were running around screaming, crying. We didn't care. We didn't care if the youth had somewhere to go. We didn't. None of that matters. We don't care if there's comfortable chairs or air conditioning. Man, I was in Haiti, and I preached 15 times over 8 days, and oh my gosh, in 100-degree weather, and it was humid, and it was awful, man, in terms of natural comfort. But 2,000 people a night showed up in that environment, and they went after God on a pavement floor, and they were burning for Jesus. They weren't looking around for a children's ministry. They weren't looking around for a handout. They weren't looking around to be greeted. None of that. They were there to meet Jesus. And is there anybody in Detroit where you have the guts to lay your attitudes down, to lay your demands down, to lay your issues down, to lay your offenses down, to lay all, to deal with, your rejection, your troubles, your problems, on and on. You're just ready to be done with all that. You're sick of all that. And you want to move into a place where there are people contending for revival. Find one of those places. This is certainly one. There's others in the Detroit region. Lock into one of those places. Don't quit. Burn like you've never burned before. Learn how to pray. Grow and grow up. Become mature and have some thick skin. Have a soft heart and thick skin. Be ready to be challenged. Be ready to be hit by the fire of God. And don't quit when your comfort level is compromised. You realize we don't start growing till our comfort is compromised. It's at that point where we grow, where it becomes a little tough, where it becomes a little irritating, where suddenly things aren't going the way that we would want them to go. Suddenly things are being led the way that you wouldn't lead them yourself. Certainly things are just not the way that you hope they would be. It's in those seasons where you mature. And are you going to be one that you burn? Because I'm telling you, man, God's doing something, really doing something. And he's just waiting for a people. We're not waiting on God. He's waiting for us. He's waiting for a people. Like Acts chapter 2. And what if we canceled everything and stayed and prayed like they did until revival broke out? What if we canceled every service that we have, every ministry that we have, every program that we have, children's ministry, youth ministry, singles ministry? We canceled it all. What if we canceled Sunday service, and instead of having all the typical stuff that we just gathered together and we hit our face and we cried out and we repented and we declared the word of the Lord and we prayed in the Spirit? What would happen then? It's a rare type of a person that will respond to that kind of call. Are you one of them? I believe you could be. Well, I know you can be. You've got to do it. So I'm excited that you're with us starting Friday night, 7 o'clock Eastern. We're going to be right here praying. I'm teaching on prayer. Not just prayer, not lay me down to sleep prayers. I'm talking about burning, fiery prayer. I'm going to be teaching on that, and I can't wait to see you. All right, I'm here all by myself, so I don't have a sound man or a video man to shut things down. So I'm going to put my microphone away. I'm going to go to the soundboard. I'm going to shut it down, but I can't wait to see you very, very soon, online or in person.